Have you ever given someone everything, your time, your loyalty, your most thoughtful effort, only to watch them hand it to someone who barely earned it? My name is Marcus Langston. I'm 42 years old, the founder of an AI tech firm in New York. Last month, I stood at the edge of a private terminal at LAX, holding a pair of first-class boarding passes for a trip I'd spent 5 months planning, 7 nights across Japan. Every detail chosen with care, from a private ryokan in Kyoto to a master sushi class in Tsukiji Market. It was a gift, an anniversary surprise for my wife Sienna. The kind of trip you give when you want to remind someone what love, intention, and shared history feel like. She showed up with someone else. His name was Liam. Younger, smoother, always talking about crypto and consciousness and self-actualization. She called him her mentor. That morning, she called him her travel partner. You wouldn't get it, she said, adjusting her Balenciaga bag. Liam understands energy. He actually listens. She didn't know I'd already rerouted my ticket, or that I was the only one with access to what came next. Because this wasn't just a trip. It was a line being drawn. I met Sienna 8 years ago at a gala for tech entrepreneurs in Soho. She wasn't part of the tech scene, at least not directly. She'd worked as a fashion buyer for a luxury department store, and she moved through the crowd like she already knew the future. Confident, stylish, magnetic in that elusive, expensive way that makes people pay attention without understanding why. We started talking over champagne and never really stopped. I was building my second startup at the time, sleep-deprived and half convinced I was going to burn out before I ever saw a Series A. But she asked questions like she was invested in the answers. She made my work sound like it mattered. That night, I remember thinking, she sees me. I'd been seen by venture capitalists, analysts, the occasional opportunist. But Sienna made it feel personal. The first few years were good, great even. She had taste, ambition, and this quiet hunger for something bigger. I respected that. I wanted to help her grow into whatever version of herself she was chasing. We traveled. We built a home. We hosted the kind of dinners that made people think we had it all figured out. But somewhere along the way, the ambition shifted. Or maybe I just stopped being the version of myself she'd fallen in love with. As my company scaled and I took on more responsibility, Sienna turned inward. She left her job, started exploring digital freedom, talking more about personal branding and less about partnership. Crypto became her new obsession. She'd go to these Web3 retreats in Tulum and Bali, where enlightenment apparently came with white robes and white papers. That's where Liam entered the picture. At first, he was just another name in her anecdotes. A former hedge fund guy who'd walked away from the system to teach financial sovereignty. I nodded politely the way husbands do when their wives find something they're passionate about. But over time, it shifted. She quoted him, more than she spoke to me. There were late-night Zoom calls, group chats with names like Token Alchemy, and a growing list of crypto meetups that didn't include me. When I suggested joining one, she laughed. It's not really your vibe, she said, but anniversaries, it turns out, were still my responsibility. And so I planned, quietly, carefully, maybe even a little desperately. I crafted an itinerary that touched every dream she'd ever whispered to me at 2 a.m., when she thought I wasn't really listening. Because I always was. The first real crack in our marriage didn't look like a crack at all. It looked like growth. 16 months ago, Sienna said she wanted to evolve, spiritually, mentally, financially. She started using words like vibrational alignment and sovereign mindset. At first, I admired her curiosity. She'd always had a sharp eye for trends and a hunger to understand things on a deeper level. I figured it was a phase, the way people reinvent themselves in their mid-30s to feel alive again. But this wasn't reinvention. This was redirection, and I wasn't part of the map. Her phone started living face down. Notifications came in from apps I'd never seen, chats with usernames like ChainOracle89 and Metamuse. She stopped, talking to me about her day, and started broadcasting to her growing online audience. Her TikTok bio read, "Decentralized beauty, financial freedom, inner authority." Her videos were polished, her followers multiplying. I didn't resent the success. I resented the absence. Somehow I was standing 3 feet from my wife at the dinner table, and she was a continent away, eyes locked on her second phone, smiling at strangers. Liam became a constant presence in her vocabulary. He wasn't just a mentor anymore. He was a guiding light. Liam says traditional relationships are built on scarcity. Liam thinks couples should hold separate tokens, not joint bank accounts. Liam believes the old paradigm of marriage is a cage. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't clever. And yet, I played along, trying not to look like the jealous husband who couldn't keep up with the new economy. She insisted they were just colleagues, collaborators, but her body said otherwise. The shift in her tone when she spoke about him, the extra time she took getting dressed before her Zoom workshops, the new lingerie that never made it into our bedroom. When I asked her directly, she looked at me like I was naive. "You're being paranoid," she said. "This is just what growth looks like." Maybe she believed that. Maybe she needed to. Then came the Tokyo trip. I started planning it in secret, 6 months ago, a way to pull us back together. She'd always wanted to visit Japan, not just for the food and art, but because of how it blended precision with beauty. She once said Kyoto looked like a poem someone turned into architecture. So I made it happen. 7 nights, 5 cities, private tea ceremony, night view of Mount Fuji from an onsen, even a surprise reservation at a sushi bar with a 6-month waiting list. I wanted her to feel seen again. I wanted her to remember who we were before our marriage became a side project. In her digital life, I created a custom itinerary in a leather-bound binder, handwritten notes on each page, a mix of nostalgia and forward motion. I'd even converted some of my crypto holdings into yen, loading them onto a hardware wallet shaped like a piece of modern jewelry. Sleek, silver, something she'd actually wear. I thought I was being romantic, thoughtful, strategic. I didn't realize I was delivering the perfect experience for someone else. It was the iPad that broke the illusion. She'd left it unlocked on the kitchen counter. A rare mistake. A notification popped up, an email confirming a dinner for 2 in Shibuya, under her name. Same restaurant I'd booked. Then a second tab with Liam's travel visa. Same dates, same flights. My name was nowhere. She hadn't just drifted. She'd rerouted. Quietly, fully, and with the kind of precision that would have impressed me if it weren't aimed at erasing me. That night, I stared at the binder for over an hour, not because I doubted her betrayal, but because I finally accepted something. The version of her I fell in love with had stopped existing long before she ever packed a bag. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't throw the iPad across the room or storm into our bedroom demanding the truth. There was nothing left to ask. She'd already answered in silence, in the careful way she'd rewritten our story without telling me she was changing the ending. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel panic, I felt clarity. The next morning, I got up before she did. I sat at the kitchen table, binder closed, and opened my laptop. By noon, I had locked the travel itinerary behind. Biometric authentication. Every hotel, every reservation, every confirmation was routed through a private LLC I controlled, one that required my facial recognition and a rotating access key only stored on my encrypted phone. I contacted the concierge services, flagged both passports for identity verification upon check-in, and updated the payment methods to single-use digital cards tied to my business account. Then I called the airline. I didn't cancel the tickets. That would have been obvious. I rerouted mine. Same day, different airline arriving 10 hours later. I upgraded the seat, added a second passenger to my new reservation, and quietly blocked her access to our shared travel credit card. Just enough to shift control. Not enough to raise suspicion. I knew she'd still try to go. I wanted her to. That was the point. There's a certain power in letting people reveal themselves. No arguments, no accusations, just the clean, undeniable truth of their actions. Sienna was going to take the trip. She'd walk through security in designer heels, holding the same boarding pass I'd purchased out of love, next to a man who thought buzzwords were wisdom. She'd sit in first class, sip champagne, and believe she'd gotten away with it. She had no idea what was waiting for her on the other side. Later that night, as she scrolled through her phone in bed beside me, I studied her face in the dim glow of the screen. Not with anger, not even with heartbreak, just distance. A quiet acceptance that the person I loved wasn't coming back. She turned off the light and whispered, "I'm excited for Tokyo." So was I. Just not for the same reasons anymore. She left for the airport wearing a sand-colored linen suit and oversized sunglasses, her carry-on spinning behind her with the kind of ease that came from knowing someone else had taken care of all the details. She didn't say goodbye. Just a breezy, "I'll text you from the lounge." As she slid into the black car idling outside our building, she was calm, almost smug, like she was stepping into the life she believed she deserved. I watched from the balcony above, coffee cooling in my hand, not moving, not feeling much either. Just ready. 3 hours later, she and Liam boarded the flight to Tokyo, business class, row 2A and 2B. I knew because I'd received the auto notifications. I hadn't disabled them. I wanted to watch the whole thing play out in real time. By the time their plane touched down at Narita Airport, I was already wheels up on my own flight, halfway across the Pacific on a quieter airline, sitting beside my cousin Leah. She'd been the only one brave enough to tell me 3 years ago that Sienna was more obsessed with being admired than being loved. When I asked her to join me last minute, she said yes without even asking why. Meanwhile, in Tokyo, the unraveling had already begun. At the check-in desk of the Aman Hotel, Sienna presented the itinerary binder I'd created. The staff flipped, through it politely, scanning the QR codes, checking the name on the reservation. Her face must have twisted slightly when the concierge looked up and said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we'll need Mr. Langston present to proceed. The reservation is under his corporate authorization, and we require biometric verification for all executive bookings." She tried to call me. It went straight to voicemail. She tried to use the backup travel card I'd given her 2 years ago, the one tucked inside the wallet she never stopped showing off on Instagram. Declined. She texted, "There's some weird issue with the hotel. Call me." Then, "None of the cards are working. What's going on?" Then, finally, "Liam is getting frustrated. He says this feels shady." I didn't respond. Instead, I sat beside Leah at a tea bar in Osaka's Shinsekai district, letting the warmth of the matcha settle into my chest. She leaned in, grinning. "Does she know yet?" "Not quite. You really designed a trap this elegant in 1 week?" I shook my head. "Months." At the hotel, Sienna argued with the concierge for 40 minutes before realizing she had no leverage. Everything was locked. Every reservation required 2-factor authentication tied to my phone. The encrypted token bracelet I had custom made for the trip, now a useless ornament on her wrist, refused to authorize anything. She even tried to call the sushi bar, the one she'd been dying to visit. They couldn't find her name. My name was the only one that mattered. Liam predictably started to pull back. The boldness faded from his face when he realized this wasn't just a romantic getaway funded by some rich, distracted husband. This was something else. A system. A boundary. A wall they hadn't expected. I imagined the moment he stepped aside, maybe told her, "I didn't sign up for this drama," and left her in the lobby with 2 suitcases and a phone full of blocked numbers. Maybe he went to another hotel. Maybe he didn't. That wasn't my concern. Later that night in Kyoto, Leah and I checked into the ryokan I'd booked months ago, the one with the private Zen garden and the hinoki tub she'd once circled in, a travel magazine. The owner welcomed us with 2 cups of plum wine and a handwritten note. "Welcome, Mr. Langston. We've prepared your room with everything you requested." The sun was setting behind the shoji screen as I sank into the silence I hadn't felt in years. No buzzing phone, no emotional negotiations, no pretending to enjoy my own generosity. Sienna kept calling. She tried my business line, my assistant, even my lawyer, who'd been prepped in advance to forward her calls straight to archive. She was finally discovering what it felt like to be locked out, not just of a hotel or a city, but of the life she thought she could manipulate at will. And for the first time, I didn't feel angry or vindictive. I just felt done. The call finally came through just after noon the next day. I was sitting on the wooden deck of our Kyoto ryokan overlooking a koi pond, the kind of serene view that makes you forget the world used to feel complicated. My phone buzzed once, then again. Same caller, Sienna. I let it ring. Twice. On the third attempt, I answered. Marcus, she said immediately, her voice sharp at the edges, forced calm over rising panic. Something's wrong with the bookings. The hotel said everything is canceled or locked. They won't let us check in without you. The card you gave me isn't working. And the sushi place says they don't have our names. I know, I said quietly. Silence. Not confusion. Not at first. Just that pause people take when they realize they've been speaking with assumptions. And the ground beneath them has just shifted, you know? Yes. Marcus, what's going on? Why are you doing this? You're in Tokyo with your crypto advisor, I said slowly, on a trip I planned. With a man you've been secretly seeing for months. I figured you'd appreciate the experience more if you understood what it's like to earn it. You think this is funny? No, I said. I think it's honest. You wanted to leave Sienna? You did. You just didn't want the consequences. She exhaled hard through the phone. I could picture her standing in the hotel lobby, sunglasses off now, hair slightly out of place, trying to regain control. That tone of voice, tight, patronizing, rehearsed, had been her shield in every argument. Over the past year, you're sabotaging me. This is childish. Liam and I came here expecting a free ride, I finished. Funded by the husband you emotionally exited from a year ago, and whose resources you used to build your brand, your retreat tickets, your fake crypto course. I'm not sabotaging anything, I'm just reclaiming what's mine. You're being cruel. No, Sienna. Cruel would have been showing up to the airport and exposing you in front of a terminal full of strangers. Cruel would have been dragging your little betrayal into the open on social media. I'm not interested in cruelty. I'm interested in accuracy. Her voice shifted then, softer, slower, the calculated pout she used when things didn't go her way. We can talk about this. You don't have to shut me out. We've built so much together. No, I interrupted. I built. You borrowed. That landed. I could hear it in her breath. I'm stranded, she said. I don't even know where Liam went. He said he needed to take care of something and left this morning. He hasn't answered his phone. Of course he hadn't. Liam was never a builder. He was a collector of ideas, followers, women who made him feel important. He'd gotten what he wanted. And when things stopped being easy, he disappeared. I need your help, she said finally. Please. It wasn't the first time she'd said that. Over the years, I'd dropped everything for those words. Solved problems before. They became problems. Cleared her credit errors, covered mistakes she didn't even know I saw, but today I felt nothing. Just a clean, emotionless understanding that I didn't owe her rescue anymore. Sienna, I said. You said I was suffocating you, that I didn't understand your growth. You replaced me with someone who told you what you wanted to hear. You chose him. You chose this. Own it. She didn't respond. You don't get to burn the house down and still ask to sleep inside. Still silence. Good luck finding a room, I added. They fill up fast this time of year, and I hung up. Leah stepped onto the deck moments later holding 2 cups of iced barley tea. She set one down in front of me without asking what the call was about. She didn't need to. She knew the difference between closure and collapse. You good? She asked. I'm better than good, I said, sipping slowly. I'm free. Later that evening, we walked the philosopher's path as dusk settled over Kyoto. The cherry blossoms were weeks away, but the air already hinted at change. Tourists moved quietly through the narrow walkways, cameras down, present in the stillness. I felt my own presence again, in my body, in my breath, like I'd finally stepped back into the life I'd been missing without even realizing it. My phone buzzed once more. A text this time. This isn't over. I deleted it without replying. The truth was, it already was, and she was the last to know. We returned to New York 5 days later, jet-lagged but lighter. I'd expected a mixture of relief and fatigue, but what I didn't expect was how peaceful the silence felt. No anxious energy waiting at the door. No strategically timed passive aggression. No forced small talk over dinners that felt like business meetings with someone who'd already quit the job. The apartment was quiet, cleaner somehow, though nothing had changed physically. I realized it wasn't the space that had felt cluttered. It was the energy that lived in it. Or more accurately, the person who had. First call, my attorney, Philip, was an older partner at a boutique Manhattan firm, the kind of man who never rushed but never needed to. I walked him through what had happened, not the trip itself, but the months of lead-up, the financial red flags, the digital breadcrumbs. She used joint funds to build her brand, I said. Courses, platforms, social media ads. I have the receipts. Any romantic evidence? I nodded. Enough encrypted messages to keep a forensic analyst busy for weeks. Her affair with Liam wasn't just emotional. It was tactical. Good, Philip said calmly. California might be no fault, but New York? Different story, when business assets and misrepresentation are involved. Second call, my banker. I removed Sienna from all authorized access points to my private accounts, flagged her user ID, and requested a full report of transfers she'd made over the past year. The digital wallet I'd funded in yen, already emptied by Liam, though I'd built in a failsafe. Most of the funds were on a time-lock smart contract. What he drained was a decoy. She never even knew the real account existed. Third call, my accountant. Janet compiled a clean spreadsheet of every unauthorized use of marital funds, coaching payments to Liam's LLC, luxury retreat fees, crypto courses she donated to under her brand name. Over $40,000 in total. This is theft, Marcus, Janet said bluntly. She's been embezzling from her own household. She thought she was investing, I replied. In a new life. Janet didn't even blink. And you're investing in a new exit. Final call. Our building's legal liaison. I filed for exclusive residential access citing breach of domestic trust and financial misconduct. Sienna wasn't on the deed, and her name was never added to the mortgage. A formality. She'd be notified within 72 hours to vacate. Politely, professionally, permanently. By the end of the week, I'd reset every password, revoked every shared account, secured every contract that bore my signature. She wouldn't just be cut off from my life, she'd be cut off from the narrative. No more borrowing status, no more pretending to be a co-founder in interviews where I did the work and she wore the success. Then came the public unraveling. It started quietly. A comment under one of her sovereign energy posts. Didn't. Your husband pay for this retreat? Then another. You scammed your way through Tokyo and got exposed. Screenshots from Liam's crypto groups began to surface. Someone leaked screenshots of him bragging about taking the trip and the wife. Then another, a chat where he admitted to dumping her after the hotel disaster. Said she was too high maintenance for long-term value. The internet, of course, did what it always does. It turned it into spectacle. Her brand was built on curated freedom, polished resilience, the illusion of self-made empowerment. But the truth broke through like water through cracks in porcelain. Her followers dwindled. Her sponsors paused. Her reputation, once aspirational, became laughable. Influencer gossip accounts picked it up. One podcast even called it the most poetic rug pull of the year. Liam disappeared from the public eye. Last I heard, he was being investigated for securities fraud related to his token project. Apparently, the SEC doesn't believe in vibrational alignment as a defense. Sienna, on the other hand, tried to regroup. Sent emails asking to re-establish neutral communication. Left voice notes framed as apologies, but they were really negotiations. Attempts to salvage her position, her comfort, maybe even her access to whatever was left of my grace. I didn't respond. Not because I was angry, because I was done. The final blow came from a space she never saw coming, her own audience. The very people she built her life around turned away. They didn't hate her. They just stopped listening. In the attention economy, that's the purest form of justice. 6 weeks after the papers were filed, she moved into a short-term rental in Jersey City. Her final message to me, oddly poetic: "I hope you're happy." No punctuation, no emotion, just a tired resignation, like a gambler watching the last chip disappear. And I was. Not in the shallow, vengeful way she might have meant, but in the real, unshakable way that comes when you reclaim the space where your peace used to live. Justice hadn't been a moment. It had been a process. One step, one signature, one locked door at a time. 3 months later, I moved into a brownstone in Fort Greene, Brooklyn, smaller than the Manhattan apartment, quieter, more grounded. The kind of place where the mornings are slow, the neighbors say hello, and no one cares how many followers you have or what buzzwords you throw into casual conversation. There's a park nearby. I started biking again, reading before bed, cooking for myself. For the first time in years, my days feel like mine. Not curated, not performative, just lived. I kept the Tokyo itinerary, not as a souvenir of betrayal, but as a reminder of intention. Every page represented who I used to be when I still believed love could be fixed by planning harder, by giving more, by outgenerosing the distance. Now I understand that love doesn't work like that. If you're the only one showing up, it's not love, it's performance. And I'm done performing. Leah still visits often. We laugh more than we talk about what happened. Sometimes we walk the city together, sometimes we don't say much at all. That's the beauty of real closeness. You don't have to work to earn it. You just have to be honest, present, willing to show up without an audience. I haven't heard from Sienna in weeks. Her voice, once a constant presence in my life, has faded into something distant, like a song you used to love until you finally listened to the lyrics. She's still online, still posting softly lit affirmations and cryptic captions about starting over. But now they read more like self-convincing than wisdom. And Liam? Gone. Deleted. His name now sits among the list of blockchain grifters who sold philosophy until the IRS came calling. Maybe he'll resurface under another alias, another pitch deck, another story about sovereignty and decentralization. But I won't be listening. I didn't rebuild my life. I simply let it reintroduce itself without the noise. The version of me that once begged to be seen has finally seen himself, not through someone else's validation, but through the clarity that comes after the storm. Peace isn't the absence of chaos. It's the absence of people who manufacture it and call it freedom. Stories like Marcus's hit deeper because they hold up a mirror, not just to betrayal, but to how we respond when it finds us. In relationships where success, identity, and intimacy are tightly woven together, betrayal doesn't always arrive as a loud crash. Sometimes it's the slow erosion of trust masked as independence, or the quiet shift from partnership to performance. Sienna didn't leave Marcus for love. She left because Liam made her feel like the version of herself she wanted to believe in. That's the danger of emotional outsourcing. We project our missing pieces onto others, and when the illusion breaks, so does everything else. But what makes this story powerful isn't just the fallout. It's Marcus's response, silent, strategic, self-possessed. He didn't chase closure, he created it. It raises an important question. Have you ever felt the quiet moment where you stopped fighting to be chosen and finally chose yourself instead? If this story spoke to you even in a small way, consider leaving a comment. Sometimes your reflection can be the perspective someone else needed today. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it forward. Stories like this aren't just entertainment. They're reminders of what we're willing to reclaim.